Welcome to another edition of the Up and Down with Frank Brank and Fried Egg Paulie here for LeadSportsBetting.com. We're here to take you through the Farmers Insurance Open here. Frank, so how was your last week?
It was okay. Nobody really had a chance to win. Landry, of course, he fits the profile, right? Like that's the guys that we were betting on. His, Landry and his twins that are on the tour, and unfortunately, neither of us picked him. I know you were close on him, but I went 4-1 on head-to-head, so that's where you kind of turn your money, and you just hope you hit an outright somewhere to kind of have a huge week. So 4-1, that'll keep paying the bills, and keep us positive to keep playing next week.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the plan there. You're just going to hit it outright every 7 to 10 weeks, make some money that way, and then just not necessarily keep it afloat, but win some head-to-heads, keep the cash flow going, and make it up by the end of the year because you're going to hit a couple outrights, and that's where some of the profits are going to come from.
Right.
Right. So this week, tour heads to Torrey Pines. It's another one where we got multiple courses, right? So we have a south course and north course. Is there anything special you need to know about that, Frank?
Yeah. So last year, if I recall, the north course was where you kind of got out ahead and tried to spike a lead there somewhere and then hold it together on the south course. But last year, the north course played a lot harder, if I recall. And it's an interesting setup when they put it that way because it brings a lot of guys into play. It was similar to like when Sony 2 weeks ago played really hard. There's 10 guys sitting there like that can win the tournament, at the end. And I wouldn't expect that to be too different here. One thing that we do know about this course is that it doesn't necessarily lend itself to long shots, and naturally I will be going down the board because I didn't like anyone towards the top really. It had some small edges that maybe we can throw some nickels on. We'll see. But past winners, Rose, Day, Rahm, Snedeker won I think maybe when it played really easy or something. Snedeker, Day, Stallings, and Tiger. So a lot of name value there at the top, which isn't really either of our styles. So I'm curious to see what you'll be firing on this week.
Yeah. So with the two courses, with the south course and the north course, south course typically will play about shot and a half, 2 shots harder. They have the ability to make it as difficult as they want because it can go all the way back to like 700-800. So I played Torrey Pines, and if the tees are, if there's no wind and it's nice and warm and the tees are up and the rough's down, it's easy golf course. But when the rough is up and the marine layer rolls in the morning, the ball just doesn't fly anywhere. So when it's 7,800 yards, they can move it back to, and the ball goes nowhere with the marine layer. That course plays so long. So you're going to have guys that are, some of the short hitters are going to be having so many long irons under the greens that it's just not sustainable for them to win. Whereas, guys who can bomb the ball have a massive edge, and that's why we've seen a lot of these guys have success here in the past.
Right. So
it just takes a guy to have one hot driving week, and he's a massive edge on the field.
Yeah. So the best players on tour are typically guys that hit the ball really far. So guys that bomb the ball here have a huge advantage, like you're saying, when the rough's up, the tees are back, the marine layers in, and that's why we're seeing so much name equity at the top, is because these guys are also generally guys that bomb it, right? Like that's the profile here is like bomb it. Nobody's hitting these fairways. Like, it's so tough to hit these fairways anyway. So you might as well see some bombers and just hope they putt well.
Yeah, and then there's a couple other stats that have trended well in the past here. So just based upon the course setup, obviously guys are going to be missing fairways, which means, guess what? Guys are also going to be missing greens. And when you're missing greens, these greens on TV look flat, and they are not flat in person. They have a lot of slope, and so when they're missing around the green, you have to have a really deft touch to get up and down because you're going to be chipping the ball, and you're going to have a lot of those 6 to 10 footers. And with the greens being Poana greens, especially in the afternoon, it makes it very difficult to make putts just because of the seeds from the Poana on the greens. But we've seen guys like Snedeker in the past, who is one of the best short games around, chip really good, and then he has that poppy putting stroke, which works very well on Poana greens. uh, in terms of like ball striking. The way the course sets up off the tee, it's a lot of left to right holes. And there's been a lot of guys that have said this in the past. Good guys like Mark Leishman, Gary Woodman that have said, the course suits their eye because they have the ability to hit fades. So if you think about it, first hole is a cut hole. It's a little dogleg left to right. Second hole, cut hole. There's a lot of holes, par 5, I think number 6 is a cut hole. There's number 7 is a dogleg right, par 4 is a cut hole. There's so many holes that either set up for a cut or allow a cut here to where you see a lot of players have success. They have that ball flight. The other thing to note about ball flight here is the greens are some of the firmest on tour. And the fact that players are having longer approach shots means that players who have a higher apex meaning how high you can actually hit your shots, you're going to have more success because you're going to be able to stop the ball faster. So that's why you've seen guys, example, some of the guys that have the highest apex is like Jason Day, right? Day can hit it absolutely a million miles in the air with his irons, right?
Well, and he has a ton of success here. Yeah.
Right. And if you even go down the board to some of the other guys that have won here in the past, you have guys that can just hit it absolutely a mile up in the air. Justin Rose, we know, right? He can launch that iron miles up in the air, right?
Especially long irons, yeah.
Exactly, right? And Tiger used to be able to do the same thing, right? He's like, these nuclear irons just a mile up in the air and come down soft, right? So there's a lot of guys that just can't hit, they can't cash that check, right? They can't hit every single shot these other guys are hitting. So that edge, if there's that pin that's, tucked in a corner there that the guy just can't get to.
Yeah, and it's interesting looking at this field and looking at the board how consistent, even if you just look at first and second finishes. Day won it twice in as a second place. Stallings won it in 2014 and finished second the next year. And he's a big guy who can bomb it, right? Tiger obviously, he's won here, 7 times, 8 times?
Yep.
You see these guys, Adam Scott, another guy that can just bomb and hit a mile in the air if he wants. So it's interesting to see how consistent the top of the board is. And it's also interesting to see that Rory hasn't been up there. I'm assuming he's been playing this tournament, right?
No, not really.
No? Okay.
So I believe last year when Rory finished 5th was the first time he ever played the event.
Okay.
So
it's interesting to see because he'll hit it as high as anybody. That guy could hit a 5-iron in a mile in the air, right? So
yeah, but the reason he didn't play it is because this week usually overlaps with the Dubai Desert Classic over on the European Tour, which he's won a bunch. So he usually plays over there, but seems to be
so.
The US.
So what are your thoughts on the top of the board? We have Rory, obviously, is the clear-cut favorite, which I agree with. I actually had a very tiny, small edge, not really that bettable, on Rory at 6-1, which I don't know if I would play anyway. Rahm 8-1, Tiger 11-1. These are odds that I pulled last night, so they might vary a little bit, and they vary book to book anyway. We got Tiger, Xander, Rose, Matsuyama, Fowler, and Finau all up there from 25-1 or better. What are your thoughts on the top of the board? Are you taking anybody up there, or are we going to run down towards the middle here?
Yeah, I'm going to be running down towards the middle. These are all priced a little too low for me here. I mean, sure, Rory's going to be, good in this field, but laying a single-digit price in a field of this strength is just.
Yep, I agree.
Just something you can't do, like numbers-wise, right? Sure, he might win, and people are going to say, "Well, you should take Rory and made money." Well, yeah, you might win the bet, but long term, you're not going to make money with that strat, right?
Is there anybody that you're fading up here?
Fading, it would be Fowler. So Fowler always has issues here. Like, you'd think he'd be a good course fit, right? Because he's a really good short game. He's a California guy, right? Yeah. But the thing is, he has so many obligations this week because his main sponsor is Farmers Insurance. So he has to do all kinds of other events this week for the sponsors. And that takes away a little bit of time and focus. So we've seen, that he struggled there. Early in his career, before he kind of had the Farmers, sponsorship, he played okay here. And then if you look at the last 6 years, he's missed the cut 4 times, and then he's finished 66th and 61st in the other 2 times. So,
and you see it with Phil last week, and you see how bad Tiger plays at Genesis. Although I could argue Genesis doesn't fit Tiger's game that well, but still, he's the greatest golfer that ever lived, and he's never played well there.
Yep.
So you kind of do see that happen. And at 20-1, I think it's we saw him as the favorite last week, which may have been justified considering the field, but I still didn't think that he, I would take him over guys like Sung Jae or something like that. But you see him as the favorite last week, and I think because he played well that we're kind of seeing a number that's way too high on him this week.
Yeah, and the other thing is you have to consider Fowler's win equity, right? He's not a guy that wins a ton of tournaments, right? It's not like he's won 20 tournaments in his career, right?
Right. So
and another thing is, like, if he's heads up against a lot of the other guys at the top of the board,
even Woodland.
Oh yeah, if it's on Sunday and back nine and they're tied with Woodland and Fowler, Woodland's probably got about a 60% chance to win over Fowler.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And if you look down the board, are you taking Fowler before even Finau, who doesn't have win equity, Sung Jae Im, Colin Morikawa, Gary Woodland? Like, I think I like all those guys more than Fowler.
I'd be at the exact same thing. Yep.
And I know Rose has won here last year, but he finished the year last year pretty poorly. And I think he would be one of the guys that I'm fading. He hasn't hit his driver particularly well. Granted, you don't really need to get around here, but he's usually a pretty masterful short game guy, and I have him 67th in the field on chipping. A lot of this, like I said, has been kind of a product of his end of the year struggles a little bit last year and beginning of the year this year. So he's another guy that I'm probably not liking too much at 18-1, even though his profile kind of fits as a bomber and a putter here.
Yeah, and there's one thing to note about Rose too. So quietly, Rose actually played last week, and it wasn't the PGA Tour and it wasn't the European Tour. He actually played over in Asia last week and finished second. So there might be a little bit of jet lag because he's going to be flying from there to California, right? So
yeah,
it's just another reason to not really invest in Justin Rose, especially at that type of number, right?
So let's move down. We talked about some of these guys: Sung Jae, Woodland, Morikawa, Reed, Scheffler, Cam Smith, Jason Day, all the way up in the 40s. I imagine that's probably maybe come down this morning some. Neiman Snedeker, who, like we've said, has won here twice, I think, and finished, I think, second once. Leishman and Spieth. Is there anybody here that you're looking at? Anyone you're fading?
Yeah, they're. I have a couple players in this range actually, so I'm going to be firing on Jason Day here. So I was able to get Jason Day at 50-1. 50-1 is still sitting out there at a couple books. It's 40-1 in most places, and I'm going to assume that's going to drop by the time the tournament starts on Thursday. It's just way too high of a number for a guy who's won twice here. Sure, he's had problems over the last year, but in the last 7 times he's played here, he's got 5 top 10s, including 4 top 5s and 2 wins, right? And we know that his game suits this course. He's got a great short game. He has the high apex, and he hits it really long off the tee. And a world-class player, right? If he's in contention on Sunday, we know he can win and close the deal. So I'm gonna lay the 50-1 Jason Day.
And obviously one of the best putters on tour, possibly one of the best putters we've ever seen. So that's another reason to jump on board. We've talked about this. I don't like betting on putting, but it's nice when the profile fits and you have a guy that can go off with the putter like Day can, even like Fowler can. But it's not necessarily something that I would be, keen on, particularly betting on, that alone. But his success here is notable, and he fits the profile from what we think would win here, right?
Yep.
My number's like Sung Jae a little bit. I didn't quite play him because I couldn't get the number that I thought I was going to get. I was hoping to get in the mid-30s, and I checked this morning, and it looks like the number has gone up. Sung Jae is it's too early to tell, but I'm nervous that he's going to Finau me, for the next year, because he gains strokes off the tee. He hits it adequately long. He gains strokes at the irons, and he's a good putter. He's a really good putter. I have him 5th in the field in putting this week. But he keeps these top 10 finishes going, these top 5s and top 10s, and we haven't seen him win yet. And that's kind of making me nervous. Like I said, I have a very tiny edge, and I haven't played him yet. But if those odds keep creeping up, I probably will. Another guy that my numbers like that not necessarily I think is a fit this week is Morikawa. He's not that long, but I have him as the best iron player in the field right now.
Yep.
But 78th in putting, 59th in chipping. I have a hard time justifying his price. And like I said, it's a tiny edge in the mid-30s, but I just don't think his game fits that well. So my first play is going to be a little bit further down, and it's Neiman again. This is a guy that we've seen at 20-1, a month and a half ago, and now he's 50-1, and it is a tougher field, but his ball striking is actually getting better, and his short game's getting worse.
Yeah.
So if he can somehow, reconcile here, he's not a terribly long hitter, but his iron game is good, and he's a really like gouger in that thick rough that he's going to be in, because everyone's going to be in it. I think he's going to be able to kind of get down after some iron shots, and you're just hoping he putts well, because the few times that he has putted well, he's either won or almost won. So I'm going to take Neiman at 50. It's a small edge. Everything this week is going to be small in my outrights. I didn't particularly love a lot of it, and my model didn't love a lot of the value out there. But like I said, with his ball striking, it just keeps getting better, and his results aren't showing up yet. So it's typically a time for me to kind of take the value where I can get it.
Yeah, but personally for me, I think Neiman's not a good course fit here.
I mean, he doesn't hit the ball high, and I don't, he
one, he doesn't hit the ball high enough, so he's going to have problems holding the greens because of how firm they are. And two, his short game in terms of like chipping is way below tour average. His
short game hasn't been good, right?
And you're going to miss greens here. You're not hitting 17 greens around here. You're hitting 12. You're going to see guys hit 12 greens and shoot 3 under par, right? The winning score is not going to be 25 under. The winning score is going to be 12 under, right? Is what we usually see somewhere around there. So when you know that Neiman's going to be missing 6 greens around, you're going to have to get up and down 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 6, and you're going to be in some really tough spots. And I just don't trust that for him. I would need to have a number much higher than what the market currently is. So I'm back in here, I think.
Yeah, like I said, it's not necessarily something I'm excited about. It's just the model likes him because he keeps improving ball striking, right? And that's kind of what we want to bet on. So like I said, everything here this week for me is going to be pretty small edge. There's nothing that I particularly love other than coming in. I was hoping to bet Sanjay when I saw his number, but the model likes him a little bit, but not enough to kind of, really fire on.
Okay, my next guy off the board here is going to be Mark Leishman at 60-1. It's sitting between 45 to 60-1, depending on the book you're looking at. So Leishman here is just kind of a sneaky course fit here. He prefers to play the ball left to right off the tee. Has said previously how he loves the way that this course sets up off the tee, and is one of his favorite courses he plays on tour. That's why he plays it every single year. Believe it or not, it reminds him of courses in Australia because of the grass, Puya grass. And so he is, had some good finishes here in the past. The last 10 years, he has 4 top 10s, including 2 runner-up finishes. So he's come close, right? He comes into the event, not playing that much. I think he finished 28th at the Sony Open, was his last start. But he has the ability to hit absolutely monstrally high iron shots. He can launch it into the atmosphere, and he can do it with a high cut, and that's really going to help on this course, being able to maneuver it into certain pin locations and stop it on the firm greens.
Yeah, he does manipulate his ball flight a lot. Given his background, he has experience doing that, and he's a huge guy. So I'm sure when he wants to get after when he can. I have him as 11th in the field in approach, gaining strokes driving, gaining strokes chipping. So his short game's always been pretty solid for a guy like him. He has a lot of touch, for such a big guy, and like you said, he does manipulate that ball flight pretty well. So yeah, I kind of like him this week too. I have a small edge on him as well. It's just, man, it's something with the board this week that I just can't really. My numbers are just lining up with it, and it's really tough for me to just get an edge on him. It kind of sucks, but I'll pass down to some matchups, where I need to. Next guy I'm taking down in the 80. I'm seeing 80 to 1. Maybe get something a little better. Let me see. 90 to 1 on DraftKings is Lonto Griffin. I rode him earlier in the year because his just overall strokes gained has been pretty good. I was looking at it this morning. He averages like 307 off the tee. He's another guy that's kind of like lanky, long. He does like to hit irons off the tee, which kind of concerns me that he's going to be like, going for the conservative approach and try to hit fairways to come into greens. My brief experience watching him is like he's not a guy that just pulls driver like Koepka or Rory on every hole and just goes for it. But hopefully, if he does, he's got the adequate length. He has the ball striking. He has the putting. He has the chipping. I have him in the top 40 in every single category this week. So at 80 to 1, 90 to 1, it seems like a little bit of a gift. His results this year, and he hasn't played a field this successful yet, but his results this year are really, really good. He had the win in Houston that we bet him on because he was trending nicely, and like I said, for my board in general, another just tiny edge. But the return at 80 to 1, I just think that he should be in that 50, 60-ish range, just by looking at the rest of the golfers. I mean, Ryan Palmer 66 to 1, right? Like I just think that there's better options further down, and Lonto is one of them. He played well at Sony. He was 13th the tournament champion, so he has a win this year, a ton of top 20s. So I don't mind playing him outright at 80 or 90 to 1. I also don't mind top 20ing him, just because his all-around game has been so good.
No, it makes sense there, yeah. And then the next one off the board for me, the last one I'm going to give out here, is I think one that we're actually going to overlap on. And so the thing you guys need to know is whenever Frank and I overlap, the guy usually finishes top 10. And that's going to be Harris English.
Yes, he's my favorite play this week. Easily.
Harris English at 100 to 1. I have him closer to 55 to 1 in his field, honestly. And I think he's going to close. Like, golf betting, the market is semi-efficient, meaning like the odds are going to move during the week, but they may not actually move to the true odds because there may not be enough money bet into it, because you're going to see enough money bet on the guys at the top, right? Rory, Rahm, the public comes in and bets those guys. So there's enough liquidity in the market. They don't drop some of the guys' odds, even though they should. So this is one where English at 100 to 1 will be firing a big bullet on there. His game just suits the course to an absolute T. Really good short game. Hits the ball long off the tee, has the ability to hit it high, has had success on this golf course a ton in the past. And you're giving me triple digits on this guy. That it just seemed like not necessarily a misprint, but it was just kind of like an oversight, just because he doesn't really have the name equity that all these other guys at the top do. So we're going to take that gift and go to the bank with it and play Harris English this week, because
similar to Lonto, where he's sneaky long off the tee. He's like 300. He's progressively gotten longer as the years have gone on. He's been on tour for a little while, but he's gotten longer this year compared to last year, and last year he got longer. I've watched him, and he's like sneakily good at driving the ball. He hits it a long way, and he shapes it nicely. And
the last year driving the ball is way up. And if you look at it, how he's played here in the past, I mean, he's played here I think 7 times, and he's had, I think, in the last 5 times he's got 4 top 31s, including an 8th and a 2nd. So he's come close, and he's kind of due to break out here based upon the metrics we're seeing with his ball striking that he picked up in the fall, right? If he continues that here, he's gonna, definitely have a chance.
Yeah, and the big knock with him, I have him 5th in this field in driving this week with all these names. I got him 5th in strokes gained off the tee, and I've got him 13 strokes gained putting. So good short game, good enough putter to win, hits it sneakily long. And like you said, success here, and you're getting triple digits. I played him last week. He's trending in the right directions. The big issue with me, the one concern I have with him is his approach game isn't that good. But in the recent swing here, he has been really good. He has had a lot of success, on approach compared to previous years. He's actually gaining strokes this year, and we have a lot of rounds, almost 20 rounds on him. and he's gaining half a stroke on approach, per round, and he hasn't done that before. So the results are bearing it out. He has a third, a sixth, a fourth, and a fifth.
And he's also very comfortable hitting a cut off the tee. So like that's the one thing, being able to know these guys' ball flights and what direction they can hit it, how high they hit it, how low they hit it. Like being able to know that stuff just creates these little extra edges. And when you can have it all line up together in a week is where you can get edges on a guy like English here, because every box is checked with English pretty much this week.
Yep, and I love him this week. This is my favorite bet, my biggest bet.
So I'm gonna miss the cut by 8 is what we're saying.
Yeah, probably. Anything can happen in golf, but no, he is a perfect profile. I agree, and we're getting triple digits. It seems a little crazy. So where are you going further down? Are you looking at matchups next? What do we like here?
Let's talk through through a top 20 or matchup before we close out here. So what are some of the things you're playing, Frank?
Yeah, so I added top 20s this morning. It's guy we talked about last week in Tringali. He played last week, didn't have a ton of success. I don't think he's had a lot of success at this course, to be honest, but he's gaining strokes everywhere, and I'm getting 5-1. It just seems like a crazy number for a guy that's just gaining strokes off the tee, gaining strokes on approach, gaining strokes chipping. He has a good short game, good putter. He's not going to do anything outstanding. We talked about it last week. I don't think he can win. I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he's going to win anytime soon because there's nothing popping, right? Like everything's top 30, top 40 on the tour in X, Y, and Z. But it lends itself to just finishing in the top 20. He's finished in the top 20 in almost half his events in the last calendar year. So at 5-1, even in this field, I think that he's just going to be another steady Eddie and go about his round and shoot, under par all 4 days and just, be right there towards the end.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note on Tringali. So if you look at Tringali and some of the changes that he's made in his golf swing over the last 2 years, I think it's going to allow him to compete a little bit more in this golf course. So Tringali used to be not necessarily a super short hitter, but was below average off the tee distance wise. His swing speed is sitting, 111, 112-ish, right? Well, over the last 2 years, he's bumped that up based upon, working out and changing some things in his swing. And now he's swinging like 118 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So he's hitting the ball like 15 yards, 20 yards further than he was 2 years ago. And he's hitting it almost about as accurate. And that's why we're seeing his kind of uptick in consistency and results, where he used to, be a guy that made a lot of cuts but would finish 50th or 60th. And now he's making cuts and finishing 20th, right?
Yeah.
And that extra distance this week is going to be huge. That extra 15, 20 yards means instead of hitting a 6-iron in the green, you're hitting a 9-iron.
He also finished 20th last year in Apex height. So that he has the ability to play here, especially given his newfound distance, like you said, and we're seeing it bear out in the metrics, and we're seeing it on the course. So, like I said, not a guy that I would expect to win. But even if he does win, you're not getting like the 150-1 that's out there, but at least we're still cashing a 5-1, right?
Yep. And do you want to maybe toss out one head-to-head you bet this week then?
Yeah. So my favorite head-to-head this week is Finau against Fowler, plus 106. We talked about Fowler. Finau's had a lot of success here. He bombs the ball. He fades the ball. I think he's another guy who profile fits. He just can't putt, man. I think it's always going to let him down. I think he's going to be one of those guys that
he's going to
like a Woodland. I think he's going to be like a Gary Woodland, where it's like when he finally putts on Sunday, he's going to win, but I think his consistency, he played well last week. His consistency is good enough to beat Fowler on this course, I think. And we talked about the downsides to Fowler this week as well. And Finau's had a lot of success here in the last couple of years. So as an underdog to Fowler, that seems a little bit crazy. I think he's the better player right now.
Yeah, I like that matchup as well. So as usual, you can find all of Frank's bets and information on EliteSportsBetting.com. You can find mine as well. So that's going to be from Frank. It's going to be, I think, outrights for the week in top 20s, right? And the head-to-heads, the tournament. I'll have all the same type of bets as well. Plus, I'll also have like single round head-to-heads and also additional bets from other books that might post different betting options, and also some bets from other tours. So like last week, We had success. We were betting European Tour. We even had a head-to-head in the LPGA Tour last week that won by I think 5 shots. The one bet we made in that. So we're always looking for value and looking to play wherever that may be, whatever tour and whatever players we can get our money down on, right? So, any closing thoughts you want to have for this week, Frank?
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on one, Spieth, and two, Tiger. What your thoughts on them were coming in? Spieth is a guy that I never personally really liked, but it's kind of sad to see his fall from grace, isn't it? Like, what are we thinking from him? He did play better at the end of last year, but what do you think he does here this week?
This course is not a great fit for Spieth, in my opinion, just because his inability to keep the ball on the planet off the tee, and he's slightly shorter than some of the top guys here.
Draws it too, right? He's more of a draw player.
And so the 4 times he's played here, he's the 35th, miscut, 19th, 4 times he's ever played at Torrey, right? And so that makes it something I'm not going to want to play a guy who's odds are this low when he's in reality his odds should be double that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thoughts on Tiger? I mean, he's obviously had a lot of success here, and I know that people will say, "Oh, he's rusty, he hasn't played in a while." But I almost like Tiger more at the beginning of the year in these like March, April, May, early in the year tournaments, because I feel like he wears down now at his age. I feel like he doesn't have the desire to stay fresh, so he just. I don't want to stay fresh. I would say he's fresher now than what he might be at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum on Tiger this week. Tiger's will be a fade from this week, and
I'm not betting him at 11-1.
Well, I'm not betting him at 11. I'm talking even and possibly in matchups because honestly, I don't think he's a good fit this week. Yes, the guy's won here 7 times, but his game is completely different than it was when he won. Right? He used to overpower the course, murder it off the tee, and just destroy it every which way. And now his game's a little bit more about precision, right? It's hitting it to this spot so he can set up this shot, right? So that may not be great. The other thing to consider is like we know Tiger's had all these back issues and all right, everything like that, right? Playing early in the morning out here in California when the Marie layer rolls in, like it's not that warm. Like it's gonna be tough for him to warm up when he's teeing off at 7:30 out there. And
did we get tee times yet?
I have not seen them yet. No, they'll be out in about 2-3 hours. So
okay.
But one of those mornings
to see that.
He's gonna be playing early, and that's gonna make it kind of difficult. Like I understand you have the 2 courses out there, and the guys are gonna be playing, but like even if he's playing at noon, if there's a day where the marine layer rolls in, it's not gonna be 85 degrees out there. It's gonna be 65. And it gets kind of chilly. And for a guy who has back issues, I'm just not 100% trusting him.
Did he play here last year?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he finished 20th last year, 23rd the year before, and then miscut when withdraw in 80th the previous time.
Yeah, when he went down. Yeah.
So it's just one where it's like at that price meaning he's gonna be up against Rory, Rahm, Rose, guys like that. And head-to-head, it's gonna be interesting to see how those play out because I was curious because woods people may be on, but if he's matched up against Rahm and Rory, where's the money going to flow in on those, right?
Right. The approach is what kind of intrigues me. I mean, I still have him 4th, in approach in the field. I think he's the best, arguably one of or the best iron player still on tour, but he's shorter, right? So that's what kind of concerns me is like. He's gaining strokes on his driver still. And even a few years ago when he was longer, he was losing strokes because of his lost balls and accuracy off the tee. So it's just his improved accuracy off the tee is like what's kind of like survived his career.
And that's why
it doesn't matter much this week. So
that's why he's been gaining strokes off the tees because when he drops down, you may see him hit a lot of 3-woods this week just to try to keep it in play because and that's going to set him back from, the other guys. Rahm and Rory pounded driver good down the fairway. Tiger hits 3-wood. He's 40 yards behind their driver. Rory's hitting pitching wedge in and Tiger's hitting 7-iron. Now, I like Tiger's iron game, but you put Tiger's 7-iron versus Rory pitching wedge, I'm sorry. The game, set, match.
Right. And the problem is that is the difference in, like, the odds of hitting the fairway good enough to offset it. And I don't think it hardly ever is. I mean, we have data sets to prove that, you're almost always better bombing it. And I think that's where Rory and Brooks have kind of gained a big advantage over the last couple of years, is they've realized, even DJ, we don't care where the ball goes. I'd rather have the 30 yards, right? And if we're in the fairway, we win.
And if you catch a hot driving league, it's come get me, boys, at that point, right?
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to play Tiger in some head-to-heads just because he's Tiger, and I think that he can manipulate a course in a ball flight, and he plays it left to right, and all that jazz. I just hope that he hits driver off the tee, because he's never been one that's really been affected by hitting the ball in the rough. He's got the speed and he's got the ability to do it. He's got a short game that's arguably as good or better than a lot of the guys at the top. It's just you need the course to set up hard, I think, for him to play well, and I don't know if it will or not. We've seen anywhere from 20 under to 6 under in this tournament in the last 3 years. Yeah. So
it'll be on the lower side since they made the renovations to the North Course a couple years back. So you won't see 20 under. You'll probably see somewhere around 12-ish, 10 to 12.
Back to normal, I would say then. All right, yeah, I'm good. I'm excited for this week. We finally got a good field. We finally got the best players in the world playing, and it looks like from here going forward, there's going to be some full fields.
Yeah, this is gonna be a treat to watch, because most likely you're gonna have a couple of these top name studs in contention on Sunday. So nothing better to do than to sit back and watch some good golf on Sunday.
Beautiful course. It's one of the best courses to watch. It's absolutely
with there not being any football on, right? With it's kind of be the week off before Super Bowl. So
yep.
All right. So this has been another edition of the Up and Down. So for Frank, for Paulie, come see us on EliteSportsBetting.com.